is Vince Mazza. It's been a while, babe.
It's been way too long. Good to see you.
You look good. You're
Likewise.
like ready to talk.
When
and
I
all
saw you, I was
excited.
like, Jimmy, you're looking good. You've lost some weight too.
You know, that is always like the most backhanded compliment you can give somebody. We got another Vince with us. Your name, sir?
I am Vince Maselli, Vice President of Pulse Technology.
Pulse Technology, and we are all here in the region. See all these billboards. Is that
Yep,
you?
up and down, what is that, 94?
Yeah.
Yep.
You don't even know where they are.
I don't
do
know
you?
where they are. I didn't put them. There are about 5 or 6 of them out there.
Your dad did it?
Yep, absolutely.
I drove to play golf yesterday in Chesterton, which tells everybody I went to the elitist place, but that's all right. But I'm going there and coming back, and I knew you were going to be in here. And so what does Pulse do?
So Pulse Technology, we do a lot of things with office technology. We've been around for almost 70 years. My grandfather founded the company in 1955, and over the years we did print hardware, copiers and printers. Down here we do a lot of office supplies and office furniture, as well as software management and audio visual. But the big thing that we do now and that we put our future into is IT and cybersecurity. So we are used as local companies from South Bend to Milwaukee, their IT department. So anything they could possibly need with IT, we do for them with remediation, and then we partner with Vince and GuardStreet to cover all their cybersecurity needs.
And give it some context here in the Calumet region, you guys bought up a number of companies, namely, well, 2 big ones I know of.
Yeah, so since 2015, really 2015 is when we moved into the Northwest Indiana territory. We bought a piece of McShane's office products, and then over the years became sole owner of that. And then in end of 2018 was our last acquisition down here, which was Kramer and Leonard. So with Kramer and Leonard McShane's, they were 2 of the biggest office supply distributors for Northwest Indiana, and that's how we got in the office supply game. And then we infused that with the Pulse Technology, office technology side of things. So we have a very robust offering for all of our clients.
And you have an office over here that you've never been to.
Nope,
obviously.
I'm going right after
That
this
is
show.
It's
so
a beautiful office, and
Yeah.
we almost got an office right next to them, but it's in a new office park right at by Byway Brewing and by BW3s at Kennedy and the Borman, and that's Gasovich's building, and here locally, Gasovich out of Gary, big developer. And Pulse Technology has a big presence in there. So since you haven't been there, that means you guys are just continuing to grow, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we just moved into that Maryville office within the past 12 months. We were in Munster when we first came down, and we moved, took over the McShane's office, and then we moved into Chesterton, and now we needed a bigger space, so now we've moved into Maryville. So that's going great. And then most recently, we just opened our Milwaukee branch on August 1st.
Let's go to insurance. You, sir, your name and what you do.
Yeah, my name's Andrew Smith. I work with Gallagher. They're a risk management services firm specializing in a wide range of services and activities. My role in particular is placing cyber liability and technology errors and omissions coverage. And the whole idea is to help companies identify, improvements in their cybersecurity posture. And once we understand that information, we take that to the insurance carriers and help place, the best insurance policy at the cheapest price. I will note, I am not on the Gallagher IT staff. Rather, I am an insurance broker focused on cyber liability and technology errors and omissions coverage.
So just by way of having in this realm also, I'm Jim Deedlow Jed. I own the businesses here, the Jed TV and the radio, but I'm also on the NISA, which is security sharing here, and we do a lot of cybersecurity, and I've sat through a lot of tabletops on cybersecurity, and quite frankly, we have our own little way of blocking here in the Purdue building. So I'm kind of familiar with some of these topics, but I don't purport to be as nerdy as any of these 3 on some of these topics. Vince, it's been a while. We need to catch up on some of the trends on what is the state of cybersecurity in the U.S. right now.
Absolutely. So coming from a cyber nerd perspective, I will say that the Cybersecurity is absolutely the fastest growing industry on the planet. And I'm saying that from a cyber criminal perspective. It's been every year is a banner year for these guys. I'll cover some statistics that I think are important for the viewers to know about. I could probably just spend the rest of this show talking about the stats. I won't, though. You're welcome, guys.
We'll do that in another one.
Yeah,
we'll
for
do it
sure.
at like 2:30 in the morning to get people that can't sleep. We'll put that on then. All right.
This will keep them up.
All right.
So this year, definitely the quantity of cyber attacks are up significantly. The damages are also quite high as well. This year, we should finish about $6 trillion in damages globally, which puts us on track for about $10.5 trillion within a couple of years. So it's those are some scary statistics. But the one that really I was shocked to see is that 84% of organizations, businesses, over the last 12 months have had some type of a cyber breach in the last 12 months. You and I were talking a couple of years ago, and it was about 20 to 25% less. So it's continued to go up. The other trend that's taking place right now is something called artificial intelligence. We could probably dedicate a show to that at some point. That is working in the cyber criminals' favor. They're using AI to break into companies. On the other side of things, we're also using AI to prevent cyber attacks. But the reality is that it's an uphill battle. The other couple of things I want to point out is that from a cyber perspective, every layer of protection that a company adds reduces your chance of being attacked by 5 times. So there's some big numbers out there. It's gotten worse this year. It's better than it was right after the pandemic, but it's still pretty nasty. But if you do put protections in place, you've got a good foundation. But even with the great protection that's available out there, you're still not 100% protected. There is a possibility that a cyber criminal could get in, and the consequence is you have got to also have cyber liability insurance, which is why I thought it was so important to have Gallagher Insurance attend the show.
So let's go into that right now. It's always hear from my buddies that are driving around listening. This is actually recorded live on the radio. More people listen later. But though, I guess I listen to that guy that comes in about cybersecurity, and it scares the bejesus out of me for my 50-employee firm. But it doesn't have to be that way, and that's why you're here, right?
Correct. And so, for those who are unaware, cyber insurance, simply put, helps protect your organization from the aftermath of a data breach or a hacking attack. And this includes everything from a coverage perspective, right? From the incident response process potentially to the restoration of your physical software and hardware. And, it's very important to discuss why you truly need it. And while there's many reasons, we can boil it down to 2. Quite simply, contractual obligations as well as the risk of stolen funds and data. So contractual obligations is pretty straightforward. Some companies simply need it in order to work with other entities who are requiring it, right? And so while you do need it for your contractual obligations, where I want to spend the bulk of my time here is for the risk of stolen funds and data. I think ransomware is a big buzzword in the media right now. For those who are unaware, that's simply malware that's extorting your firm for stolen data or system access in order to get some money in return. And we see that continue to cause financial loss for our insureds. Whether that's due to, the cost to pay off the ransom, or in other cases, most of the time what we're now seeing is the cost to recover from the aftermath of the ransom. And so while ransomware is important and should be discussed, that is by all means not the only thing that we're concerned about. We're seeing phishing scams and other social engineering tactics used to steal social security numbers, health information, credit card numbers, and other sensitive information. And so cyber insurance is helpful because, it's going to notify your customers of the breach, help you monitor for identity theft, and then financially support the restoration of said computer systems.
So somebody's driving around, that guy who owns a 50-person firm, he has some level of I'm familiar with, do you have some sort of cyber insurance on dealing with certain clients and so forth? But what is that process? It sounds so cumbersome. Somebody just calls you and says, and then what happens? Somebody walks them through how they buy the insurance, or what's that process?
So what I would do is, as a broker, right, my job is to go out and find clients who need cyber insurance. And so more and more as, technology continues to evolve and we become increasingly reliant on technology, it's extremely essential that, more companies start truly thinking about this, right? Because not only, are you dealing with your property and what happens if your assets are damaged, many of our assets are digitized now, and a lot of our confidential information, private information is stored in computer systems. And so, for the smaller businesses, it is still absolutely essential, as they're one of the main ones that experience breaches. But we'll get into more of that in a moment.
Vince Maselli is Pulse Technology, the buyer of half the billboards here in Northwest Indiana.
Only half? I feel like it's more.
I go, Vince, have you ever been to your office? I have. No, I've never been there. Oh, what about all those billboards you bought along the busiest highway in America? Oh, well, that was my dad. So you guys got a lot going on, but from the IT perspective, you heard some of those buzzwords, phishing, malware, sensitive data, and so forth. So what are some of the trends going on when you put these IT systems in that you got to watch out for?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Vince Mazza mentioned it earlier. AI is ramping up at a exponential rate that's never going to slow down at this point. And there's this thing called dark AI, just like the dark web, and dark AI is being used by what we call cyber criminals, because that's a real job for people, is being a cyber criminal. And now with AI, they're creating more elaborate phishing emails, more elaborate malware to trick certain security levels. And AI is going to be a very big issue for all. I mean, it already is. I mean, everybody is, I think for the most part, has used ChatGPT or something of that nature to experience using AI. And now it's just getting more and more advanced every minute of the day as it basically learns and machine learns how to be better at what they're doing. And so we're going to see a lot more AI-backed attacks. And that's just giving cyber criminals more time to evolve their craft, but it's also giving us more time to evolve our defenses as well.
I would add just a couple of points. A great foundation there. Beyond those types of attacks, once the malware is dropped inside a network, it becomes polymorphic. So in other words, your endpoint protection, your antivirus starts. And if it takes a certain shape, okay, that's malware or that's ransomware. But once it's in the network, it takes a different form. And it's really difficult for non-AI tools to detect that type of malware.
I was specifically brought in to keep Vince Mazza from using terms like polymorphic to turn away the entire audience. But I agree with you, you're talking about. So Vince Maselli, you guys go in and you either take over maintenance of somebody's IT system or you put one in. What scares you the most?
Well, the biggest thing for me is before we take over anyone, we have to do a cybersecurity risk assessment.
Which we're doing in the next show, basically, yeah.
Yes,
yeah,
so
okay.
I won't go too deep into it. But the fear is that, if you do get hit and you pay a ransom and nothing happens, they're going to come back and hit you again. They'll just keep hitting you like a loose slot machine. And so, the biggest fear is, I truly believe what we're doing is helping businesses grow. I think one of our greatest things is we drive the economy. and giving businesses the right tools to grow and be prosperous. And one of the scariest things is people don't know what's on their network. And be that they're having the most computer literate person handle their IT, and that's how their business is being run. It's terrifying because they don't know what's out there, and you don't know what you don't know. And so the biggest thing is coming into somewhere and having to tell people like, these are major issues, and then nothing happens with it. And we tell you if you're doing good too, so we don't just tell you everything's bad. But if you have the right measures in place, that's great. But there's so much now that's being required by insurance companies that is kind of still falling by the wayside, because I think it's in Vince's tagline on his email. You don't know the effect of a cyber attack until you get hit, and that's how a lot of people live their life. It's never going to happen to me, and so I'm not going to worry about it. I know of a company down here. They got hit for $50,000. I think they're about 10 employees. So it doesn't matter how small you are. You're just too small to make the news. But we hear it almost every week. One of these monster companies are getting hit. And that's the scariest thing is people don't know what they don't know, and they're, living in blissful ignorance, thinking I'll never get attacked because I have a small company.
All right, so that bridges us right over here back to insurance, Andrew. You got a lot of small businesses that they've already turned the channel right now. This is recorded live, and that's how we do it here, because they don't want to think about it. And then they hear that, oh my gosh, the insurance premiums have gone up. I mean, how do you address that, convincing them, and then what are the limitations of what you guys can do?
Yeah, so, in terms of convincing individuals to buy cyber insurance, I think the data speaks for itself, right? The small businesses are certainly the ones attacked the most. And to Vince's point, that's likely because they don't make the news, right? But the truth is, many of our cyber criminals that, we've seen and observed, there's different approaches to it, right? One of the approaches is, the quote-unquote low-hanging fruit. Is there an open port? Is there an unpatched vulnerability that a scanning, software ended up finding, and they already know an exploit that they can utilize? But, then you have your larger attacks that make the news, and, sometimes that's a threat actor group, or even in some cases a state-sponsored attack to ultimately bring down a larger company, disrupt the economy. I think Colonial Pipeline was a great example of that, where the East Coast was struggling to get gas for multiple days, right? And so, the good news is significantly less companies are seeing the, declinations for insurance, right? In 2019 and 2020, we saw a major spike in attacks, which ultimately led to more claims, and carriers needed to combat that, right? And that's where we saw a major spike in premium and
declining people, which is declinations.
Yes.
Some people you just can't insure, right?
Exactly. And so, there are certain baselines that must be met in order to be insurable. And it can differ by industry class, right? Which is why it's important to discuss with your broker. I think, simply put, MFA is extremely important, specifically in front of, employee email, privileged access, as well as remote access. And I'll add into your backup solution as well. And on the same note, having a strong backup solution is also very key, right? We would recommend finding an immutable backup, making sure your backup is offline, at least disconnected from the internet, and, having multiple copies. Maybe if you have one on site through tape, have another one stored off-site if at all possible and it fits into the budget.
Fire. I mean, obviously there are physical floods around here. We're on a swamp lands down here. So you talk about limitations. Like, why would you not do a small business? I mean, what's glaring that would show out there?
Well, what ends up becoming glaring is truthfully not always their fault. Sometimes, the requirements by the insurance carriers, can be expensive, right? We're seeing a new push for EDR solutions, right? So endpoint detection and response, which really relates back to AI, which we discussed earlier, right? Instead of your normal antivirus, that's using a database to determine, have we seen this malware before, and then can now detect it. EDR brings AI into the equation so that it can detect those newer attacks, anomalies that may not ring the antivirus alarm bell, but EDR says, that looks, a bit suspicious. And so budgeting is what I would answer to that question is, for the smaller businesses, they may not have the financial resources or the IT personnel, to make sure that things are patched quickly enough and, have the resources to ultimately fund that particular control that they're trying to implement. And so I think that's one of the biggest issues.
So one of the things that I'd like to...
Once again,
Oh,
for the
sure.
people that are either on an audio podcast or listening on the radio, this is Vince Mazza. He is the CEO of GuardStreet.
Yes.
And it's Andrew Gallagher and Vince Maselli. But this is the cybersecurity guy himself. Go ahead, Vince.
Sure. So one of the best things to happen to the world as a result of the, we talked about companies being dropped from cyber insurance and so forth. Companies used to basically leave their doors and windows open to the business prior to the spike of cyber attacks from the pandemic. And then it caused claims to go up, and consequently, it became more difficult to get and keep your insurance as a result if you left your doors and windows open. So I like what the insurance companies, including Gallagher, have done to require companies to invest in their cyber posture in some form. So yeah, the requirements are more difficult now than they previously were, but the cyber attacks, while they continue to go up, they're starting to stabilize a bit more. And that's a result of what the insurance companies have done to encourage companies to invest in their cyber.
And in the 99 3/4 years of WJOB, we're celebrating our 100th in about a month here when this is taping. I'm pretty sure that insurance companies have never been portrayed as a good guy, just so you know. So we have a historic moment here.
I wanted to pay a compliment where it's due.
Exactly. Andrew is with Gallagher, and then Vince Maselli is with Pulse. So you wanted one more comment, then I'm going to switch it over here.
Yeah, absolutely. So the one other point that I want to make, and this is going to be on a subsequent the Cyber Collective show, which I need to talk to you about what our purpose is maybe towards the end. But the other point is when it comes to small businesses or any size business determining where they need to spend their precious cyber dollars, that's where that risk assessment comes into play. So I can't wait to talk about that.
So that,
in the show.
it really puts us at the next stage. Vince Maselli, there are solutions. Obviously Vince Mazza with GuardStreet is bringing the insurance guy and the IT guy together. But, your average business middle management that's in charge of IT in one of these big companies around here, or they own their own business, they're just scared Jesus, but there are solutions, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's go on that direction.
Yeah.
Take some of the pressure off here.
Yeah, for sure. The biggest thing that companies have to do is kind of change the mindset of employees. Because we can spend $20,000 a month on cybersecurity initiatives and put in the right hardware and put in the right softwares. But if your people aren't trained and you're not fostering a culture of security awareness, none of that matters. Obviously, maybe not obviously, but the biggest threat to any business is employees when it comes to cybersecurity. Because you get an email that looks like it came from your boss, you click the link, and then you're in trouble because that basically opened the door for the cyber criminal to walk in, bypass everything we've put in place, and then it doesn't matter. And at that point, then we're starting to cut off legs and re-spool up everything to get the business back up and running. But yeah, there's absolutely solutions, and I'm actually going to throw it over to Vince because he'll be able to talk deeper on the GuardStreet offerings than I will be, so take it away.
Absolutely. So, we look at the 4 Ps of cybersecurity, and Vince very accurately pointed out one of them, which is the protecting the people. And the people thereby will protect the company. Awareness is important. But the next P, and I look at it as a foundational P, is set up your plan, set up your policies, document the importance of where you're going to focus on your cybersecurity. But then also the third P, put in the protection technologies that are needed, and that could be a combination of working with a really good IT company like Pulse Technologies or GuardStreet or a combination thereof. But the other P that's tremendously important, which is a foundational element of this show, is your partnerships. A company can't do it alone and shouldn't. You need the third parties that are very familiar with the world of cybersecurity. This is all we do. So I wanted to pull together the partners, a great IT company with Pulse, which would be the fifth P of cybersecurity, I suppose.
Yeah, Pulse.
And Gallagher Insurance, and then GuardStreet Cybersecurity as the independent company that looks at your overall company and applies the 4 Ps and tests whether or not your protections are in place and working.
All right, we got a lot of these to do, but we covered some of the basics here. But, somebody's listening to this or watching this, and they're like, all right, I want to look at some stuff right now to kind of back up what you're talking, videos, blog, all that stuff. Talk about that.
Yeah, so great. So the approach here with our group, the Cyber Collective, is to form a group of companies that are only interested in helping other companies to avoid cyber attacks. So this is the first show. It's Cybersecurity Awareness Month. It's perfect for our first show. And what we'll do is focus on a particular topic. Today it was cyber attacks and insurance. We will provide the content and trends that are happening today, but also provide tips so that companies can avoid a cyber attack, so they can protect themselves, they can detect if they're there, and then they can recover quickly if, God forbid, something bad happens. So we're excited to have this first show underway, and there's more to come, and we will also have content out there on the GuardStreet.com social media site, on our LinkedIn, but also with Pulse Technologies. Vince has a great team put together, so we'll be posting the shows on their site and social media as well.
Andrew, final talk about just kind of telling people, chill out, talk to you, and we'll figure it out, basically, right? Is that the plan?
Yeah, and I mean, I'm not always the one that's talked to me about all of your IT issues, but what we can do is put you in connection with the right people, right? Whether it's the Vince to the left of me or the Vince to the right of me.
Both have great haircuts,
absolutely.
by the way.
Both do, as a matter of fact. And,
There's all sorts of inappropriate jokes I would make at this time, but we're not going to. But you're giving a level of, hey, there's hope.
There's definitely hope. And you know what? What we have seen is actually, with the attack trends rising in 2023, we're actually seeing some stability in the cyber insurance market. And, while this is due to a multitude of factors, one of the biggest ones is the improved cybersecurity posture due to the requirements of the insurance carriers. And again, I will reiterate that I'm the individual that will go fight on our client's behalf, right? Go to the carriers and say, look at what they have. They've segmented their IT environment from their OT environment. They've added MFA here. They do cybersecurity awareness training and phishing simulations. I could go on, right? But the idea is we have more power now, given how much these cybersecurity postures have improved, to go out to the carriers to get the best terms at the best price for their cyber liability policy.
Andrew, thanks a lot. Vince, thanks a lot. And until next time, we'll see you later.